Okay, so let's continue on with our work here. You've made a note of these, so the sphere of influence again is quite important. These are how we order or organize our settlements. Okay, population size, the variety or range of services they provide. The bigger the settlement, the better the variety, and sphere of influence. So again, Nassau has a bigger population than Alistown and Bimini. So if we were to rank them, Nassau would be higher. Range of services. Nassau provides more services than Alistown and Bimini. Okay, it's got considerably more services. Sphere of influence. Nassau has more services, it's got better transport than Alistown, and very little competition from other settlements. So again, Nassau would rank higher in our hierarchy. All right. There's two factors now that affect our sphere of influence that we need to think about. All right. And we need to write down these two. Okay. First of all, there's something called a threshold population. This is pretty simple actually. This is the minimum number of people needed, okay, to ensure that demand is great enough for a service to be sustained. All right. So if you don't have enough people, you will not get the services because there's not enough people to keep them open. So for example, there won't be a shop in a place that has less than kind of 300 people because they won't make enough money to stay open. Roughly, a doctor's surgery needs about 2,500 people. So if you have less than that, if you've only got 500 people, there isn't enough of a demand, there isn't a threshold population for the doctors to stay open, okay? So again, as population increases, the number of services will increase. Now we'll look at a little graph of that in the future. But that's the correlation. As the population increases, the range and demand for services increase, okay? Also, there's a second thing about range. This is the maximum distance people are prepared to travel to obtain a service. So also, people will not drive 4 hours to go to a small shop. All right, they won't drive 4 hours to go to a chemist. So people are more willing to travel further distances for specialist or quality services, and they are usually only provided by large cities. Okay. So this again, this affects the influence of a place. If we have a huge big city like London, for example, it will have the most specialist services. So people will travel from much further away to come there to get those services. All right. Now, last little note for the day, change over time. So little subheading, and then we need to write all of this. So few settlements remain constant over time or in size. All right, like we said, there's a word dynamic. Okay, villages and towns close to large cities tend to increase in size as they become suburbanized. Now we look at that word suburban, but again, urban means cities, suburban means on the edge, kind of just on the edge. That's where you find, if you've ever heard the word suburbs, a suburb is on the edge of a city. So villages and towns near large cities will increase in size usually, and then sometimes they join together to form a bigger area. Villages far away or isolated areas tend to become smaller as they lose population. Most young people tend to move to cities today in this day, so the rural small villages are decreasing in population. If you decrease in population, you lose more services because there's not enough people. As you lose services, more people move away, so it's a vicious cycle. Okay. So that is currently what's happening. The current change is people are leaving the countryside, moving to cities. So areas near cities are getting bigger, settlements are getting bigger. Settlements far away from the cities or in kind of isolated areas are getting smaller. All right. Now, homework. New Wider World, page 54, question 1, 2, and 3. 2, you only do A, B, and C. Do not do 2D. You don't do 2D. These pages of the textbook help you. Okay, we're going to read through some of it now, and it's due next Friday. So I will put that on Plus Portal, and I'll go through those questions in the next video. Okay, now we're going to move to page 37 of New Wider World. All right, so if you jump over there now, we'll do some work. Okay, so on page 37 now, you should have made a lot of notes in that first video and a half. Okay, so I'm going to fly through this really quick because this is kind of just reconfirming what we did, and we're going to add some notes. So again, functions. Function of settlement relates to its economic and social development and the main activities. What I underlined here is larger settlements will have more functions than smaller. Okay, they're multifunctional. Now what I've done is, beside functions, I added what are the purposes or main activities. So that's what a function is. All right. Larger settlements, like I said, will have more functions. I said think about Nassau in terms of the Bahamas. All right, it has more services than, or more functions than anywhere else in the Bahamas. Again, some examples. London's function is the capital city, it's the lead city. Cambridge is a university town, it's about education. Dover is a town which is mainly a trading port. So they're the main functions of those places. All right. The original function may no longer be applicable. Okay, functions change over time, as we've discussed. All right. And then what we have just further down here, we've made a list of 5 bullet points already, but these are some types or examples of functions. Now I've highlighted market towns, mining towns, industrial, ports, cultural, administrative, residential, and tourist. All right, so fairly simple. The main function, selling of market town, selling or producing, selling goods, sorry. Mining town or fishing town is to collect raw materials. A port, the main function is trade. Okay, administrative, I said, is a modern function, offices and government. Residential, some settlements are purely residential. So people just live there, they wake up and they all leave to work somewhere else. All right. And then a tourist resort, again, think Bahamas, mainly just tourist attractions. All right. So on to the next page. So again, just to go over our hierarchies, okay, the term hierarchy refers to the arrangement of settlements within a given area, okay, in an order of importance. So every country will have a hierarchy. It's very simple. 3 different methods are used to determine the order of importance. Now you've already written these down, okay, range of numbers of services, sphere of influence, and population. Now the first one, population size. All right, this is what we always used to do. But like I said, the problem was villages in places like India and China are often as large as many British towns. So you can have small little villages in India and China that have hundreds of thousands of people just because they've got a huge population. So this is not very accurate, okay? Notice that the larger the settlement, the fewer there are in number and the greater distance between them. So what we'll do is start to look at our pyramid now. Okay, I put in 2 factors to consider. Okay, also think about the land area, okay, the size, and then also the population size. So for example, at the bottom you've got the smallest, most countryside, most rural settlements, okay, maybe just one family spread 500 meters apart. Then we move up to hamlets, those small little settlements, then a village, small town, large town, city, conurbation, primate, capital city. So as we go up, there's less and less of them. You can have lots of these, okay, but they're spread out. And then as we come up here, you're only going to have one capital city. Each country has one capital city, and they're usually very, very far apart. So as you move up, you get less of each one. They're spread apart further, and the population increases. Okay. So again, what else you could add is services also increase. As you move up through this, there'll be more services here, then more, then more, then more, then more, and so on. As a rule, okay, what we'll look at later as well is each time you go up, you include all the services from below. So all the services available in a village, okay, the library, the theatre, the shop, the post office, okay, as it grows into a small town, this will have all of those services plus some new ones. As it evolves into a large town will hold all of the services a small town has plus more, and we increase like that. Okay, so let's jump up onto the top of page 38. Range and number of services, we've already done that, so we can move down. Okay, this table here is just some examples of services. You don't need to spend very long looking at that. Okay, this is the important one. So sphere of influence. The sphere of influence or market area may be defined as the area served by a particular settlement. It depends on the size and services of the town, what other settlements are surrounding it. So if there's only smaller settlements, okay, then you'll have a bigger sphere of influence. If they've got good or bad transport facilities, and then competition from other settlements as well. All right, so we've already looked at some of this. We're going to move on to the top of the next page in the next video. All right.